How has your week been mindful?
It has actually. I'm so glad you asked. Actually, I do this 8-week course on my own and facilitate a group through this curriculum that's all based in, mindful practices. And you know how crazy the weather's been. Part of it is a half-day retreat where we go outside and you do some sense and savor walks, which we had talked about, sense and savor practices, which are some of my favorite. And so we're supposed to do it last weekend. The weather has been crazy, winter won't end. And then Friday it was just, the sideways sleet and the rain and the snow. And, it's that moment of realizing I have no control of the weather, right? And so just accepting this is happening and not forecasting too much, because even with the forecast, we can't control the weather. And Saturday was beautiful. And we ended up having this great experience of once we came in and we kind of were processing how everybody was on their own experience. And while I was out there, one of the things I noticed were the swans flying overhead. And it's a silent practice. And so what I noticed myself wanting to yell out at all the participants, swans, look up, look up. And what I realized is as a person who leads these practices, often I'm so excited about having them experience things a certain way. And the reality is that we all have our own experience. Your experience of mindfulness and the practice is going to be totally different than mine. And so one person may not see the swan, but they look over and they see the deer walking through the snow. Another person is looking down and they're experiencing like all the different kinds of ice, that they're walking on, in the different ways that they crunch and beginners find. And it was such a great reminder again about how mindfulness is not just one thing. It's really just the ability to be present in the moment and then to choose what we focus on. And it's the choosing what we focus on that can end up being so helpful in how we master what it means to live in all this crazy weather of life.
Yeah, I love that, because if you would have, as excited as you were response, if you would have kind of broken the silence, it might have taken someone away from something else that they were maybe meant to see or would have been better for them. But I think we do that so much where we just really feel like this is, we want to kind of dictate not only what someone does, but how they do it.
Yes.
And like, it always sounds ridiculous if you spell it out like that, but like we do it all the time. And
with the best intentions,
which I take issue with. It seems like the intentions are good. It should be good. Like that is the most frustrating thing. Like my intentions are good. I shouldn't be doing damage. Like I appreciate that example of mindfulness, and I love how, I don't know, mindfulness pops up everywhere. And I feel like my kids are the best reminder of mindfulness, even though they're the ones who make it arguably harder to practice like traditional mindfulness methods in my life. How excited those children are when they see like a tree. Which like we live in Idaho, there's no shortage of trees. There's a lot of trees, but like the amount of things that bring excitement and like joy. I love it. Like they're like the epitome of like living in the moment, where they're like, look, I can do this thing with my arm, and you're like, that is exciting. But like they're demanding that you be like in the present, and I really do like that. I really do value that about that, even though again it makes it harder to do kind of more traditional mindfulness stuff like this. Just because it does put a lot more on your plate there.
And it made me think even like last month when we did the winter meditation, and how attitude is so much of it, the attitude that we bring to the experience, because who, after this long of a winter, wants to even look at the ice? And yet this one person was suddenly immersed like a child in all of the ways that the ice had formed that day and the different sounds that it made and how this ice looked different than that ice. And that is just like, that is exactly what you're talking about with kids, like how they can make anything seem like, awesome. And this time of year, just look at ice and say, wow, that is so magical. It's like, that is a superpower. It really is.
It truly is. And it just being in the moment, if we're not, I don't know, if we're still wrapped up in other things and we're not just being present in the moment. Like there was, sometimes the snow, like the flakes, you can like see the defined like little things. And I have this picture that's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite pictures of my son, his little hair has got these little got these little snowflakes that you can see like defined like in his little curls.
Oh my
And I think he was like, I don't know, 2.5. And so his hair's like the whispered little baby hair. And it's like one of my favorite things because he's like, Mom, why are you standing so close to my head? Like, a picture of my head. But like, it was just beautiful. And I really, that's my favorite thing about mindfulness is lets us live our life like or how it's meant to be lived, I think.
Yeah. And you could have totally missed that moment.
Oh, totally.
If you wouldn't have been paying attention.
Yeah, because we were leaving the grocery store and that's like one of the worst. I'm not a huge fan of grocery shopping for a lot of reasons, but like that, you know, like even so, I mean, I remember not being a super good mood, being like that, like really changed from that taste.
It does. It's those moments that are the
Totally.
gift. It's not the big things. Often.
Totally.
It's the little things.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so, you know, specifically today we're going to talk about being mindful, like in conversation. And Julie, what do you find is different when you're mindful in conversation versus when you're not?
Oh, well, for instance, listening. So trained as a counselor, you know, that's one of the really primary skills that we are required to really develop. And I remember my first semester practicing counseling, we weren't allowed to ask questions.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And it was like tying our hands together. And so you don't realize how often we fill space with more questions. And I actually had somebody tell me that they would stop listening to a person before they even finished what they were saying because they had anxiety about not having a prepared response. And so to just be completely present with somebody, I can tell when somebody is distracted and I'm trying to share something with them. And it's a weird feeling. And what do? Like, do you stop and say, are you listening to me? Like, what do you do?
I mean, it depends on who we're talking about. So I think we're gonna hold people that we know better when we're
like our spouses.
Yeah, we're gonna I mean, I sometimes, I'll be honest, it's not gonna make it sound very nice. I'll give them a pop quiz sometimes.
I will too.
Yeah.
I want you to repeat the last 10 seconds, please.
And honestly, like it's hit or miss. Sometimes he just is it looks like something and he is, but like a lot of like, but sometimes like he'll be like, no, you're right, I was listening, what was it? Kind of a thing. And like I'm guilty too. Like, absolutely. But yeah, when you kind of they're either not looking at you or you can just tell that they're not really paying attention.
It's like a glossing over.
Totally. It's weird. But and it's hard because I think that like there is so much happening in life, and the really cool thing about counseling is it does provide space where you really can like just be there for somebody when like that is not something that really exists really in the real world because there's just distractions and but yeah, I think being mindful like is being fully present, just like in mindfulness, like other mindfulness practices. I think that it's also, I don't know, making sure it doesn't just because someone can have your full attention, you can still be following this formula. And so I think, like you said, being okay with not having a question ready, because really it's something, these expectations we have for ourselves, they're not what we have for other people. Like we expect like question, keep going. But like, I don't know about you, but I don't expect that from people around me that they will have an answer. I'm okay with there being a pause, with there being a lull. It's okay if there's silence because I know that they're listening. I know they're giving it thought. But I think we are really afraid of looking like we don't know what we're talking about.
And it's interesting too, because another practice that I often work with people on is compassionate listening. And so again, when somebody comes to you and they're struggling with something, and one of the exercises says we will witness what they are saying without saying, I'm sorry, or smiling, or literally just listening, just being present. And it's crazy how most everybody struggles because they feel so compelled to want to reassure someone or have an answer for them or give some sort of evidence that that they're being a good listener, when in fact the person who's being listened to will say, when that person is just present, that is really the most supportive of all, because this person doesn't necessarily want an answer. They just need to feel heard. But it's hard.
It is. That video I like to show up whenever I teach to a group about like listening and about de-escalation. Like oh dang it totally fell out of my head. It's not about the nail. One. I love that one because basically like it's, if you haven't seen it, it's a video about, and we'll stick it next to this video on Canvas.
It's a great video.
But it basically lady in her nail. I'll just link it, and if you guys on here haven't seen it, just I'll send you the link because I can't do it justice. If you haven't seen it, I want you to see it versus my play-by-play of it. But
it's a perfect example of that though.
it is because we really, a lot of the things we do in conversations are to make ourselves feel a little bit better about kind of what we're witnessing. And that's one of the hardest things about practicing like in counseling is like a lot of times there aren't like easy answers. It is really hard stuff and there isn't a way to make it okay. And that is tough because sometimes we just have to mindfully sit there with that without and encourage them to practice kind of that action principle of experiencing something without judgment. And it's tough, but outside of therapy, things are a little bit different. And I did I sent some of these to you, Julie. Here, I'll give you this half and I'll give this half, but like I sent these to you, but like I know you'd mentioned one that you really liked. These are just some good
compliments.
Topics. Yeah, that's
in fact I tried that with my husband.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Struggled. I just said, what are you most complimented about? You could not give me an answer.
Really? I guess men don't compliment each other as much, right?
Yeah.
Like women give the most compliments.
Right.
So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a good question. And I like this one. Do you remember the first novel you ever read? If so, what was it? Let's see. Oh, this is a really good one. What's your love language? This is really important to know people around you because knowing kind of what really resonates with them. I love that one. Julie, do you know what your love languages are?
I do. It's interesting because there's love languages that I'm really good at giving, and then there's love languages that I desire. So what I express isn't always what I want expressed to me, but acts of service as a mom and as someone who, when my kids were still quite young, working, to go home and have the house clean and dinner, that for me was just like amazing show of affection.
Like that.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm pretty much tied between words of affirmation and quality time, which I'm sure is shocking with my job. Those are the two that resonate with me the most. And I'm married to a man who has two that are not either of those.
Right.
And so it's really interesting though, because it functions easily. Like it's just being aware of that is really, I think, important. And I don't know, I really love knowing that about people around me so I can know kind of what will work for them because everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I like these because they're not just the small talk, because we can be totally with somebody and follow a formula. Anything standing out on these, Julie? Because
what's your earliest memory? I mean,
that's deep.
That is real deep.
Tell me about your childhood best friend is a good one.
Oh yeah.
And we'll also link this list as well.
I love what superpower do you wish you had?
I like that.
Yeah.
What superpower do you wish you had? I'll ask you first, I guess.
Oh gosh, there's a few, and I think I would want them, but then I start thinking more deeply about them. It could as easily be a curse, right? Like time travel.
Oh yeah.
That's fascinating to me, but I think emotionally, I don't know that I could do that.
Yeah.
I might cling, or I might be completely freaked out if I go forward, and you know what I mean?
And you might mess up like the future.
Right, there's that.
If you've seen any sci-fi movies or read any sci-fi books, just a bad idea.
Right, the Dark Mirror or whatever that creepy show is.
I love that one so much. It's funny. Mine would have to be like teleportation. Because I just cannot. I get really motion sick when it comes to like riding in a car and stuff. And so I used to think I was flying, but I'm afraid of heights. That seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Probably like looking out a window in a 2-story house. So I don't think I should fly.
Yeah. And okay, so I mean, then it takes to the next level. If suddenly they came up with a teleport machine and they, used it for a year, and most always it worked okay. Like, would you be willing to give it a spin?
I guess when you say most always, like, what are the exceptions? Like, are people just disappearing?
Yes, right, exactly that.
I'm not a risk taker, so probably not. If you said it always worked, yes, sure. But if no, I'm not there. I don't really like this.
Right, which is a really interesting thing to know about that particular superpower.
Like, what is that machine? Why does the machine not work better? Who designed it? But like the thing is, these kind of I like that they flip the script because I think we are comfortable with where we often sit when it comes to conversation
Yeah.
because we know what the formula is. I am not that good at small talk anymore because of what my job is. I like to do like 30-second, like intense conversations instead.
Me too.
I throw people off often, and there's some people I'm aware that they're not comfortable with kind of those conversations. So we do revert back to kind of more traditional small talk.
Right.
But I am definitely more known for not always giving the pre-programmed responses, and I will sometimes, but I find to be a lot more comfortable and feel a lot less exhausted at the end of the day if I can be a little more genuine in those interactions.
Absolutely. So, and I think you bring up an interesting point too, is that self-awareness for me has been huge because both, we as clinicians, we have the opportunity to work with couples. And so in that work, again, communication is so essential. And to be, that's one of the primary things you work on with couples. So even understanding your own personalities, right, type, MBTI. For myself, I'm really on the line between extrovert and introvert. And I could guess what you are, I think. But here's the thing that I know about whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, that when I'm working with somebody or having a conversation with somebody who is opposite of me, and this was so helpful for couples counseling, that when for instance, if I'm more of an extrovert and say my introverted husband, we're having an intense conversation and he's saying, can we wait till tomorrow? I can't engage this right now because of the energy involved. And as an introvert, they need more time to reflect, right? And so it's that being able to step away when I understand that in that moment, that self-awareness, okay, I'm more of an extrovert, that understanding of him. And he also has the opportunity to teach me about that if I'm open to learning what that means for him, right? So it's this really nuanced understanding and exchange of not just words, but obviously gestures and tone and all that stuff, which again is 80% of communication, at least something other than words, tone, facial expression, body language. When we develop this deeper understanding, then I'm not taking things so personally. And that's such an important piece, I think, with mindful communication, is to notice the emotion that I'm feeling in a given exchange and having that understanding, oh, he's walking away. It feels a little bit like he's walking away, like rejection, but he's really just walking away so he can be more mindful when he engages. So that stuff fascinates me.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I have to know what your guess is to get it right.
Introvert.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, we can't shout it, but I feel like I came out as an introvert. I really think I operated again, this idea that extroverts were more confident and which is not true. But I think
they act more confident.
They act more confident. They process more outwardly, so they're perceived as more confident. But again, being between a highly introverted sister and a very extroverted sister, I had to kind of figure out what I was. But I think that self-understanding again helps me recognize that energy is one thing I need to manage. And so mindful interaction is also me being able to turn away and say, wow, that person was really nourishing to me. Or
no, totally.
On occasion.
Not everyone's going to increase our energy, and that's a really good thing to be aware of. And also I like what you said about being willing to kind of accept what that adapt to what that person needs and recognize that it's not personal.
Yeah.
That's really important and really hard because honestly, I think a lot of times we are just assuming it's about us or it's personal or not able to look at something through a lens that's not our own.
Right.
It's hard because really we do things. I'm always discovering new things that can be done differently because everything can be done a little bit differently and perceived differently.
Yeah.
And I read a book about it was the 4 tendencies, and I read this book out of spite because someone told me what tendency they thought I belonged to, and they were right, and that actually super annoyed me a lot. But it's about kind of what motivates people and kind of what drives them to do things and what they're kind of where they're what their compass kind of points towards. And it was totally spot on and it was totally fair. But I've never had that so much time. I read a book out of spite. I don't know if I recommend it, but it was a good book. And it is one that has been really helpful to my therapy practice because, and just to being like a friend and just like a companion to anybody. Like when I talk to anyone, is like, that's why they buy the same things.
Absolutely.
And it seems like a really obvious thing, but we all don't really operate off of the same information, off of the same kind of goals. I don't know. Like, again, seems really obvious, but it's one of those things that was a little bit different to figure out and to operate off of.
Right.
So,
And again, don't you think it brought you more self-awareness? And with self-awareness, we create more space for other awareness.
yeah, totally.
So I have a question. When you think about mindful communication, it not only applies to face-to-face, but like with texting or emails.
Yeah.
Like, how do you apply mindfulness in those situations?
Yeah. And I think what we've been talking about kind of, it's going to be so different for each person because you have some friends who are going to want you to respond to almost every, like if they say a couple things, they're going to want you to give something. And you have some friends who are going to be totally content if you just like thumbs up it, which I usually cannot manage to just do that. Like that's not usually how I operate. But I think that's going to be so individual to each person. There was an article floating around that was one of my favorite things. It was a dad who he voices in the group chat to his daughters that he cannot handle the pressure of this group chat, that he is going to be, he said, thumbs upping to things for acknowledgement and hearting when he loves it, and that is going to be it because I can't keep up. That's what I said. But I like that though, because we can state what we're able to do. And now if he wouldn't have stated it, we're like, what is he doing? But he stated what he could handle and he did it. And so I think that it's so, I feel like I feel like I'm opting out of answering that question on accident, but I feel like it's so individual to each person.
It is.
Because some people you're gonna need to proceed differently, and you're not gonna want to have to compromise what you can handle and what you can do, but it's gonna be different for each person and what they need from you.
Absolutely. And I think that again, there are some people who are so succinct with their emails, it almost appears cold. Where on the other extreme is like so many emojis that you lose track of the actual content because you're trying to, like, your eyes are so distracted.
Absolutely.
But I think when it comes to, again, this is awareness and mindfulness, when you feel yourself like suddenly caught up in some emotional or strong reaction and you're communicating through text or through email, everybody's had an experience where they push send and they have regretted it. Because maybe they should have just reread it or slept on it for a day, or and again, it's that recognizing discomfort isn't always urgency, right? It's just like, okay, I'm very worked up right now, and is this my only? And that's the other thing: is this the only means of communicating, or can I pick up the phone? Can I walk to their office? Which is a beautiful option, may I say.
Absolutely.
One I highly endorse.
Absolutely. Because it's hard to get our point across and it's easy to misunderstood. So I think face-to-face is always best. And it's something that I used to not be very good at because I do need that space sometimes when it comes to big conversations. And it's something it's honestly pretty recently that I'm uncomfortable just communicating. I need a little bit of time when it comes to those, because I used to think it had to be, there's a sense of urgency if you have to get it fixed.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good indicator of a healthy friendship when someone's okay with giving it a step back. But I've written that I've seen a call come through and I've ignored. I've like, when there's, luckily that's not a regular occurrence of these things needing to be resolved in that way. But I've texted and been like, hey, like, let's talk about this tomorrow. Like, I do need some space. And that's okay.
It is. It's actually healthy.
Absolutely.
Be able to ask for that.
Absolutely. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to do a mindfulness exercise on just self-love, because I couldn't, as far as an exercise goes, I was like, I don't know how to do one on having a mindful conversation, because I don't know. So I found a really beautiful one that I'm forgetting to credit here, but I will credit on Canvas. But we will self-love. We can always use more of that, right, Julie? Always.
Absolutely. Every day.
Absolutely. So first, make yourself comfortable. You can lie on your back, bolster under your knees. If you're at work, probably can't do that, or if you're in class or whatever. And a folded blanket behind your head, or sit comfortably, perhaps, if you folded blankets, for additional support, feel free to sit against a wall or in a chair. If you're already in a chair, great, you're, miles ahead. If you're lying down, feel the connection between your back, the back of your body, or if you're seated, lengthen up through your spine, broaden through your collarbones, and let your hands rest on your thighs, palms facing either up or down. Once you've settled, close your eyes or soften your gaze and tune into your breath. Notice your breath without trying to change it. And notice if you feel tense or relaxed without trying to change that. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Continue to take deep, full breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. As you breathe, become aware of the state of your body, the quality of your mind. Where is your body holding tension? Do you feel closed off or shut down emotionally? Where is your mind? Is it wandering or is it at home within the breath? Is your mind at ease or filled with restlessness, negativity, and doubt? Place both hands over your heart and continue to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Ask yourself, how does it feel to place my hands over this tender area, the place where I experience love for self and others? Let your breath become more smooth and effortless and begin to breathe in and out through your nose. Feel the flow of air moving into your lungs and back out into the world. With each exhale, imagine you are releasing any negative thoughts that may be lingering in your mind. Continue to focus on your breath. On each inhale, think, I am worthy. And on each exhale, I am enough. Let each inhale draw in self-love and each exhale release what is no longer serving you. Take a few minutes to breathe and recite this mantra internally. Notice how you feel as you say these words to yourself. I am worthy. I am worthy. And I am. If your mind wanders at any point, know that it's okay. It's the nature of the mind to wander. Simply bring your attention back to the breath. Notice how your thoughts come and go, whether positive or negative, and simply allow them to pass by like clouds floating in the sky. Now visualize yourself standing in front of the mirror and look into your own eyes. What do you see? Pain and sadness, love and joy, neutrality? Regardless of what appears in the reflection, tell yourself, I love you. You are beautiful. You are worthy of happiness. Know that what you see in the mirror in this moment may be different from what you see next time you look. Imagine now that you could breathe into your heart and visualize love pouring out of your hands and into your heart. Let this love warm and permeate you from your heart center, filling the rest of your body. Feel a sense of comfort and calm traveling up through your chest, into your neck and head, and out into your shoulders, arms, and hands, and then down into your ribs, belly, pelvis, legs, and feet. Allow a sense of warmth to fill you from head to toe. Breathe here and know that love is always available for you. When you're ready, take a few more deep, mindful breaths and then slowly open your eyes. Sit for a few moments to acknowledge the unique experience you had during this meditation. Refer back to this practice or any other resource whenever you need to create a loving space for yourself. This is a beautiful opportunity to learn something new about yourself and tune into your physical and emotional needs. Let self-love enable you to build a stronger relationship with yourself and allow you to show up more fully in your life. So when you're ready, return to the room, open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, and just keep that warmth with you throughout your day. Julie, how was your experience with the self-love meditation?
Warmth is such a great way to describe it. And again, the contrast is really long in this winter. I loved I Am Enough. I think, again, for myself, it doesn't matter how much we practice, how much we develop ourselves, how much we elevate other people up as a human being. It is such a natural thing to question in ourselves that we are enough, that what we do is enough, that our intentions are enough. I love that invitation. Also, the description of being able to imagine the essence of love or these kind of beautiful states flowing into our heart. I literally just cannot visualize how I feel, what that feels like. And so I really appreciate that. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be guided. So much of what we do is supporting and guiding other people. And so just your voice and the invitation that this meditation offered is just, it's like drinking a glass of water when you're thirsty,
So good.
So
I'm glad.
really good water, like with cucumbers. Very refreshing.
Not full of chlorine or anything gross. No, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
But we thank all of you for joining us, whether it's today or, in the future on Canvas or wherever else we decide to, put these someday.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
but we hope I believe you guys are having a practice, during
Yes,
spring break.
yes,
Awesome.
we are on the 20th. So if you're on campus, I've already had a student say that they would be there. So
Nice.
yeah, so we will be there regardless. And yeah, face to face is fun. So
Absolutely.
come.
Absolutely.
And also we've had a lot of really great response to the yoga. We've offered at least monthly. Actually, the last couple of months we've offered it twice. And this last week, our very own Lori Barber led, and we had like 10 people. So yay, Falcons for showing up for yoga, spreading their wings.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
So
Maybe join next week or one of the other events, but thank you for joining us and we'll see you next time.
yeah, have a great rest of your week coming up to midterm self-care, self-love.